Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. I'm your host, Zahra Javed. It's an immense pleasure to have with us today His Excellency Mr. Troels Vester, Country Representative of United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. It's a great pleasure for us to have you over here.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for hosting me.
So before we formally begin our interview, I would like to know, for how long have you been here?
I think you normally say that you give presidents around the world 100 days and then they have to be working better and the mistakes are done. I've been here exactly 110 days, so I'm past that now, and now I'm really responsible.
Right, that's great. So, Your Excellency, so have you visited the landmark areas of Pakistan as yet? Or
I have been to Lahore, which was my first mission. I've been 2 times to Karachi.
So, what is your first impression of Pakistan as
I mean, I come here with my family as well, so I speak on behalf of the family as well, and very warm.
Yeah.
We've met no one that has not been very friendly to us in any way of Pakistan, from any walk of life. Everybody has been extremely friendly and very sort of down to earth, talking, willing to talk and share experiences, and we've had no problems whatsoever. So I think that's really at the top notch what I can say in terms of preparation from other countries I've been to, that the warmness here is very high.
Well, that's amazing that you're having a great time, and I hope you have a much more great time here in Pakistan.
Thank you.
So can you please apprise our audience about the primary mission of UNODC and how it's facilitating the international community in their fight against drugs?
So UNODC first is the abbreviation of United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime.
Yeah.
So that is our official mandate.
Yeah.
We also work a lot on terrorism, so we don't really say drugs, crime and terrorism, but we do on terrorism as well. Okay. When it comes to the drug work around the world, it's all built on 3 drug conventions. Pakistan has ratified all 3 drug conventions many years ago. That sets the frame for UNODC's work globally. And then UNODC providing that secretariat function, which means bringing countries together. It means research, it means training, it means capacity building, it means equipment provision, it means all kind of sort of mutual legal assistance, extradition. But I think it's an important point to say, many people who work for UNODC, we are all sort of former prosecutors, police officers, military, but once you join the blue flag, you are no longer operational. So we can never, for instance, go with ANF on an operation. It is not allowed. Right. We can also never tell ANF, you have to open this operation, you have to close that operation, because we are not operational. Right. So we're only there to help, but never to be the investigating arm in any capacity.
That's right. So what are your views about the narcotic threat landscape in the South Asia and beyond? And how is the menace impacting the region, in particular Pakistan?
I'll answer it by going backwards. So let's start on a global level. From the global side, we can see clearly in the last couple of years that what we call plant-based drugs, which is the opium poppy to heroin or the coca leaf to cocaine, is being replaced slowly and step by step by what we call synthetic drugs.
Yes.
Synthetic drugs not coming from a plant, really coming from chemicals. And we see this on a global scale. We see countries declaring these synthetic drugs as national emergencies, national health issues, and unfortunately it is also coming to this region. Yeah. And not only to the region, it is also coming to Pakistan itself. Yeah. So looking forward on this issue, it's no doubt in our mind that the efforts of the region has to go towards this before it's too late. So synthetic drugs has different kind in it. It has methamphetamine, it has what we call Yapa in that scale, is a Thai word, which is sort of not very pure synthetic drugs, methamphetamine. You will have others, which is ice, which has a very high percentage. So the synthetic drugs is not all the same. Yeah. Within the synthetic box, we are also seeing fentanyl. Fentanyl having had huge impact on the Americas, but not only. Yeah. We have not seen fentanyl cases in Pakistan for the moment. Yeah. So again, this is a global issue, but not right now a Pakistan issue. But as with other illnesses in life, it's much better to prevent than to cure. So I think one thing we do need to work together with in the region and in Pakistan, that is synthetic drugs, no doubt about it.
Afghanistan, historically being the world's largest opium producer country, how has the 2022 drug ban on poppy cultivation impacted upon the region and global narco paradigm? And also, like I've seen that since the drug ban, Afghanistan has also emerged as one of the countries producing methamphetamine a lot. So one of the kinds of synthetic drugs. So how do you see that?
No, we share the view that there's been a switch in production in Afghanistan from the traditional opium fields to heroin, and now what we're seeing is real synthetic labs production. And of course, in this sense, we can say that Pakistan is the victim of that. And it's kind of worrying, because if you're looking at the heroin trade, is still there, but you're having now a different issue on the hand, which is synthetic drugs, which goes into a different walk of life in Pakistan. It goes into schools, so it's great to see that ANF is now working with schools on prevention efforts, but it is going into schools, education, sports clubs, more than the heroin did. Also because of the way that it's being used. Heroin is traditionally injected, whereas these are coming synthetic drugs in pills. And so for many people, there's also confusion literally in the school system. You want to hit harder. Somebody tells you in cricket on Friday, and everybody wants to hit harder and be stronger. So they fall for the trick and being told this is like a vitamin pill. And in fact, it is synthetic drugs. And the person never intended to use that. And the bad thing about is synthetic drugs, you don't have to use that many times, and you can actually become addicted very fast, and you don't know about it. I want to take this chance to tell your audience that UNODC has just launched, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, what is called Afghanistan and the roadmap on Afghanistan, its neighbors in the counter narcotics. This is a document that is extremely important for Pakistan, as we are having a coalition, let's call, in the region to try to look at the specific new production coming out of Afghanistan, which is not just Pakistan. We're seeing cases in Uzbekistan, in Tajikistan, in Iran. But looking at ANF's massive seizures this year and comparing the statistics, there's no doubt that Pakistan is on the front line, the frontier of this, and also because of the sheer size of the Pakistan population, and with I think it's more than 60% of youth, which is very problematic in terms of synthetic drugs. So we want to help Pakistan on this. We want, and we feel UNODC's job on this is to help that Pakistan is not standing alone. It wouldn't be fair to ANF. It wouldn't be fair to the people of Pakistan, because a lot of it just goes through Pakistan. It goes to Karachi, it goes to the airports, and it needs to be a shared responsibility of the international community coming together to help Pakistan, so they don't have to get the drugs to their ways, that it can be stopped in Pakistan.
So this leads to another question. As like you've said, that Pakistan, despite being the transit and victim country, is playing a pivotal role in addressing the regional and international drug threat through balanced approach and evidence-based approach. And in last year alone, Pakistan's contribution in global seizure is about more than 365 metric tons of different drugs and precursors. So how do you see Pakistan's role being the frontline state in the fight against drugs?
I think it's a massive role to have for Pakistan. And organized crimes are always changing their modus operandi, so you can never say in this kind of work that you stop learning. There is no such thing. Because the moment you are oppressing in one simple way with some simple machine, they will try organized crime to invent new methods of concealing, modus operation changing, which means one always needs to share experiences, get the newest of equipment. Looking at the balloon effect is famous. If you target one area, then the effect is that it goes somewhere else, which means that the response also needs to be from Pakistan national in its efforts. If you only target one border point or one airport, it's very simple for organized crime just to change the different ways. I think it's also important to take out Pakistan as finding that balance in the work, as we talked about the 3 drug conventions. countries can work within the 3-drug convention in finding that balance. So you have to work on all sides. It is exactly a balanced approach to drug control. It is not only enforcement. Enforcement is one of the tools in the box. It's a very important one, and you can't combat drugs without enforcement. But that also could be said for prevention. We need to be able to go out to the school and speak to the youth so they understand the difference between a vitamin pill and what is synthetic drugs. We need to be able to work with those that have already fallen into this and be able to treat so people get out of it. We need to look at a policy, and new policies are important. In terms of who is in prison in Pakistan and who maybe shouldn't be there because of a more traditional thinking, countries around the world are now beginning to try to look at synthetic drug use as if you are caught with one pill for your own consumption, or you could also say heroin. So possession for your own consumption, do you really need to go to prison? Probably not. Whereas the efforts needs to be targeting the distributors, the producers, the crime figures. And by then having a smaller community in the prisons and maybe getting treatment, focusing more on treatment. So that also comes with synthetic drugs in that sense that the treatment package needs to coincide with it. And then, of course, comes as part of the balance approach, it comes the legislative reviews. Laws need to be up to speed to the challenges that are coming. And by that, I mean especially on controlling chemicals.
Chemicals, right.
You can't make drugs without chemicals. So it's an important part, and we know that Pakistan is a major transit point for chemicals. So we need to look at why are companies bringing in these chemicals? For what kind of legal purpose? Because they should be allowed to bring in for legal purposes. It's used in agriculture, in chemical production, etc., etc. But it must also be possible for the Pakistani forces, and including ANF, to have a critical review about, is this really legit? Or is there another purpose of this? And why are we seeing this transit of these chemicals to which point? To Afghanistan, for instance, for what purpose? So chemicals and chemical strategies are extremely important in going forward with these challenges. So again, with these seizures of more than 3.5 metric tons, I mean, we will see within the next couple of weeks, we'll try to get the data, global data, and see how Pakistan compares on that. Because if you can compare what are that compared to other countries in the world, it could provide an interesting figure. So ANF and myself is going to the Commission on Narcotic Drugs, so let's see if we can get the figure beforehand.
Yeah, that's great. So what are the major initiatives of UNODC to effectively address the ongoing narcotics threats and challenges in the region?
So the first step in this was, of course, to get the roadmap together, the roadmap on Afghanistan, neighboring countries. So a lot of our interventions in the next 2 or 3 years will be surrounding of that roadmap. That roadmap calls for border management initiatives. So basically trying to look at the flow. So that is one simple thing. But looking at the flow will have different phases. One will be the border directly with Afghanistan. And in that sense, trying to stop the drugs coming in the first place. But drugs, you don't stop everything at a land border. So we also believe that there needs to be possibilities to interdict later. So Coast Guard of Pakistan has a mandate of 20 kilometers into land. ANF has on other places on land. We see PMSA, Pakistan Maritime Security Agency, to play a role in further, and of course you have the Navy in the end. So you can't put all the eggs in one basket and only do border management at the geographical border with Afghanistan. We need to be able to work with the forces along the whole way to be able to interdict. Again, chemicals. Important. I think that's super important. And I think we need to be able to equip frontline officers of ANF and the other forces that I mentioned with the basic tools in the box to be able to search a vehicle faster, to be able to see if the substance that we found, is it actually a precursor or it's not a precursor, and not have to send it to a lab, but having the kits to be able to do it. We have just provided last week a new scanner to ASF in the airport of Karachi. which means that passengers in the Karachi airport found by ASF or found by ANF no longer needs to be taken to a hospital and take them out of the line and just take them to a hospital and realize they haven't swallowed anything. There's no drugs inside. And that's complicated because it means airlines losing their passengers, people are angry, it's not good for trade.
Yes.
Whereas the scanner we have now given, and that will be functional very soon, you can trace it already in the airport. They can see it, which means it's a couple of minutes for the passenger. And if it's a negative finding, you go back to the line, you're not using your plane.
Yeah.
And that takes me to the basis of your question again. When we are dealing with law enforcement issues and interdiction on drugs, it's always a fine balance with trade.
Yeah.
Because you can't also have a 100% control on everything that moves, because we would have private sectors against us, against the government efforts and our efforts, because we're holding trade. Pakistan needs trade. Pakistan and all the neighboring countries needs more trade together.
Yes.
But they need the licit trade, not the illicit trade, which means intelligence, profiling, having the latest tools in the box, technology-wise, is very, very important to be able to find that balance. Whether that's a passenger, a truck, a container, it's the same principle of having that upper hand on knowing what to inspect. No country in the world expects everything all the time. They can't. So I think that's what we will work with ANF in the future and the other forces of Pakistan in finding that balance. Because we don't want the private sector to go against us.
That is true. Right. So as you have talked about the ANF doing operations in the educational institutions. So my question is, ANF is undertaking a nationwide counter-narcotics campaign around the educational institutions of Pakistan. So the aim basically is to prevent the youth bulge of a population from the menace of drugs. So how do you see this initiative and how UNODC can facilitate ANF to make it more fruitful?
I think it's a huge challenge. Again, population of Pakistan, the youth, the schooling, it's a massive amount because again, ANF doesn't have that many thousands of staff to be able to do it everywhere all the time. But I think it needs to be done. I think if we can avoid, and by that I mean ANF and UNODC and I mean the country, what we call the first time use.
Yeah.
If we can avoid that people stop using the first time and never end up in the treatment, that's a massive result. What we sometimes work with ANF is that coming up again with the latest scientific work on this, I can ask the audience of this podcast, at what age do you think that prevention should normally be done? And everybody will have their answers. And most people will probably be thinking teenagers. And actually that's not the newest finding on prevention. It's 9 years of age, which is a lot earlier than normal traditional prevention is doing. And that has to do with the use patterns around the world. The younger, they start earlier in the generations. They have access to more information flows, social information.
Through the media.
Through the media. Peer pressure.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So that impacts the use. Availability is also an issue. Because now you do have synthetic drugs available in some schools, so it's available. It wasn't available 5-10 years ago. So I think this is our key role to make sure that the latest trends in the world is done. I think also in terms of prevention, we always guide and saying what ANF is doing in the way of is not a one-off. A one-off and just going into any school and just saying drugs are bad never works. It has to be sustained. It has to be working with school counselors because the school counselors know the families. Yeah. The teachers maybe know the topic, but the counselors, they know which families. And again, the drug use really impacts the families. Yeah. So again, ANF doing a good work on this, but there's a lot more needs to be done, again, simply because of the size of the country and the size of ANF. I don't think they can visit every school in the country all around, and neither can we. And not even jointly can we do it. Yeah. So I think partnership is important in this and working with the schools as much as possible to leave some good work with the school counselors. So once the intervention is finished, maybe 6 months later, then there's school counselors that are up to date.
So I think I must mention one of the things that ANF is basically, the DG ANF is handling this IATF, and that's basically all the law enforcement agencies. So combining and jointly, they're actually going to take this initiative, and they're going to, curb this menace from the society. And I'm hopeful that they'll be able to do this.
No, it's great to see, because again, ANF has the leading role and is our direct counterpart on drug issues in Pakistan, and takes the lead, and also needs that leadership in terms of rolling it out to finding partners, and that partners could be a lot of different agencies to be able to scale it up to what we're looking at now. So we also ourselves are looking at how can we improve ourselves when it comes to prevention and when it comes to treatment. Again, we don't do treatment centers. We're also not teachers in a school. We are not operational. But we still constantly look at these issues. The latest issue, I was in Punjab just late December, and we do want to work with ANF and also with local administrations in terms of policies. That's where our role comes in a lot more than doing the actual work. But policies are important when new things are coming up. You can't have a policy that is based right now only on heroin in Pakistan. That would be a wrong policy. So policy needs to change as users are changing, trends are changing, chemicals are changing. And I think it's an important point. I know this is a drug interview, but I do want to say that many of the chemicals that are being used to produce drugs can also be used to make bombs. So it is, again, I have a counterterrorism mandate as well. So we are concerned about organized crime groups, terrorist groups that are earning money from the drug trade, having access to precursors, chemicals as well, but can also, of course, use that investment to create terrorism incidents, etc., etc. So the drug area doesn't stand alone. It's not isolated.
There's basically a nexus between the terrorism and the drug trafficking.
In this part of the world, yes, but not only in this part of the world. In other parts of the world as well. And of course, also, we see organized crime groups that have created the routing, the supply chain, the networks. So whether they in the network only have drugs, or they also start using human trafficking, smuggling of migrants, trafficking of protected birds. We see that in countries as well. So some organized crime groups, once they have established themselves and they have the route and the chain, they just switch the product. Which is also why it's important to see the drug issue as part of transnational organized crime. Because there's an awful lot of money made on this, but it's not just on drugs. They're also being made on other crime types. And it makes the work even so much difficult, because you're not up only against a group that is doing drugs. You're up against the groups that is also doing a lot more of
financing, basically, the other types of terrorist activities.
Exactly.
So, So my next question to you is that UNODC and ANF are long-standing partners in the fight against drugs. So what are UNODC's ongoing and future programs for capacity enhancement of ANF, especially in the face of rising threats emanating from evolving synthetic drug markets and introduction of new psychoactive substances, and which are coupled with cryptocurrencies and dark web?
So we want to work with ANF exactly on the synthetic drugs as priority number one. And I think the first step we should be looking at this year is maybe to create the first ever national strategy on chemicals. And I don't mean that from a private sector point of view. I need that from an ANF point of view. And how do we do this? Because now the situation is different. There are experiences from other countries in the world that keep being presented, but ANF will know how to put it best in place in Pakistan. As I said, we keep training also officers from ANF on the latest modus operandi, so that we've seen it elsewhere. Now they know that this could be coming here as well. So this is one important point. Keep that capacity building. ANF is very strong. But again, there's no agency around the world that is so strong that they don't have to learn the new modus operandis. We also see that many recruitments of good people in ANF, they have a great background, but they don't know how to identify this substance.
Exactly.
How would they know if they know heroin? For sure they would know heroin, the powder form.
Yeah.
But if you're working with a complicated chemical composition, or you're looking at a pill, how do you differentiate whether that's a vitamin D
or
it's actually methamphetamine?
Yeah.
So I think this is important for ANF and for us as well. Keep training new recruits and frontline officers. So when they are in that very important point in the airport, they know the difference.
Yeah, they know.
And if they don't know the difference, they can call somebody higher up in ANF. I have a case. I need somebody. And I think that's crucial going forward. I think it's crucial again in terms of finding also the financial flow working with ANF in terms of where does the money go from all of this? Who's making all the money? Because ANF is taking down a lot of people.
Yeah.
And eventually it needs to come up with some kind of mapping of Pakistan. How does this fit together? And what's the money flow in all of this, and where is the money going? Because maybe the money disappears out of Pakistan and has nothing to do with Pakistan.
Yeah.
But there's something that needs to be done as well, because this is a fairly new trade, the synthetics. So one needs to look into the money flows as well. And of course, ANF will be doing the dots on that slowly as well as this is evolving.
Evolving thing. So how do you see the dark web? How is it affecting the world right now?
I mean, there's no doubt about it when we're talking about crime generally, that the dark web and cybercrime, if you call it under that, is a major challenge to the world, and especially also on the drug trade. I've been to some countries in the world where they're saying it's faster to order synthetic drugs than pizza, because you still have to heat the pizza. So I think that describes it pretty well. I think there is much information, and I think a lot of frontline officers, government officers all around the world, not just in Pakistan, this is a huge challenge, because you can't be an expert on the drugs and then be an operational officer, and you also need to know about the dark web, and you need to know about technological issues. So this is a real issue in itself, but it's something that Pakistan and the different parts of government and ANF as well has asked me for help on this. UNODC has received really kind funding from the government of Qatar. So we have opened a cybercrime center in Doha with the government of Qatar. Right. And I'm trying to get as many Pakistani operational officers, including ANF, to get training there. Because it's a really good training center. And the training course could be a week time, and it could be good to have different people from ANF learning, because they're much better in sort of technical terms in how to fight it. It's also something we are a bit careful in how to say on media, how to fight it, because the moment I say this, our modus operandi will change. And it will,
exactly.
it will just get even
They get
worse.
the hint, basically.
So I think we can sum up and saying it's a true challenge for Pakistan. It really is.
Yeah, so that's wonderful, basically, that you are going to help Pakistan and ANF basically to get the training in Qatar. So it's going to be a very great initiative from your side to help us in this regards. How about, what do you think about the cryptocurrencies, basically? How is that, linked? Because obviously it's linked with the dark web. So what are your views about that?
Well, cryptocurrencies is a chapter for itself again, that the more that you're having funding, money on an electronic system, the more difficult it gets for governments around the world and for individuals, because a lot of people don't even know what is cryptocurrency. A standard police officer, would they really know what it is? How do you trade it? How do you move it? And it's a way of moving money fast around the world for licit purposes, can also be used for illicit purposes. And then you go into a real issue when you come about combating drugs, and that's the issue about jurisdiction. Yeah. Because again, drug trafficking cases and the money around it normally doesn't belong just to one country. So you could have country A where the production is taking place, country B, which is the transit country, country three where the destination country and the users, and between the three of them, you could have cryptocurrency or normal money being changed through the three of them. So the more the money is, invested and in different kinds of tools, this issue about jurisdiction and international cooperation becomes more and more important, which is again underlines no country can fight the drug trafficking alone, especially when you're looking at dark web cryptocurrency, because it may not be based, the cryptocurrency hosted in Pakistan. It may not be. It may be in somewhere else.
Yeah. So one last question. With the introduction of cryptocurrency, do you think it has impacted the Hundi Hawala process, when they're transferring money for the drug money, basically?
I haven't been here long enough to answer that question.
Right.
But I think it will impact all walks of life, no doubt about it. If it hasn't impacted yet, eventually it will do. But UNODC work with all kinds of currencies in terms of if it is money laundering, if it is crime, it doesn't really matter how it's done. And we also have to recognize that a lot of it is illicit. So I give you an example.
Yeah.
We've seen many organized crime groups around the world now. They don't use cryptocurrency. They don't use US dollar bills.
Yeah.
Because how do they pay each other? They interchange drugs.
Right.
Drugs has become a currency in itself.
Like a barter system, you could call.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could see exchanging of, let's say, synthetics for other drug types, etc., etc. Drugs now is used as a currency in itself.
Right.
Which is a way of avoiding, again, leaving a money trace either on cryptocurrency or on cash or banking and whatever, because now you're just talking about the substance itself. So it's a currency itself now.
Well, thank you so much for your time. With this, we come to an end to our most informative and interesting session of today's on how UNODC is strenuously working for combating drug crime from the world over, while Pakistan is also striving very hard and leaving no stone unturned to protect its youth from the menace of these drugs. Let's continue to work together for a healthier and safer society. Stay safe, stay healthy. Until next time, take care. Allah Hafiz.